Hey guys, I'm Rachel Lynn for Queen Bee of Honeydews. I hope you are enjoying your holidays. Today I'm going to show you how I turned my 9-foot Vienna pine Christmas tree into a winter wonderland beauty. Okay guys, so first let's go over what you need to do this project. The first thing you're going to need obviously is flock. And the flock that I used is this. Let me show you this. I have a ton left. I bought a huge bag because I didn't know how much I was going to use. But this is a bag and it's from Peak Seasons. And I'll leave a link for where you can get this below. But it is just their... But this is just their snow bond. This is what the professionals use in the blowers where they spray the trees with the flock. And so I wanted to have mine come out as professional as possible, and I wanted to know that it was going to last. So this is what I used. And the second thing you're going to need is water. You're going to need a lot of water. And you're going to need a spray bottle to spray that water with. And you also are going to need, very important, you're going to need some sort of mask for your face, and I'll leave a link below on the mask that I use, but you need a really good respirator type mask that will filter out these particles. This is really fine, like dust when it gets going and blowing, and it has a glue adhesive in it, so you don't want to breathe that into your lungs. But once you get it on the tree and it's settled in, it's really safe. And this is also flame retardant, so you don't have to worry about it blowing. You don't have to worry about it going up in flames and taking your house down for Christmas. Now, I did my Christmas tree on a pre-lit tree with LED lights, and I had no problem whatsoever. It turned out beautiful. I did go back and remove a little bit of the snow flocking from some of the bulbs where it had saturated it, but that was a very minimum amount of bulbs that I had to mess with. It worked wonderfully. And then the next thing that you're going to need is you're going to need some sort of a strainer. When I did mine, let's just look at how I did mine, and then you'll see what I mean. So to start out, what I did was I saturated an entire section. My tree breaks down into sections to 5 pieces, so I worked with each piece separately, and I started by spraying the area that I wanted to flock and concentrating very heavily on the tips of the branches and still making sure that I got the inner part of the branches wet as well. Now I first tried using this type of a strainer, this metal stainless steel mesh strainer. It's very fine, which I see a lot of people doing, and it was very difficult to get it was very difficult to get the flock to come out of this strainer. Mostly the only thing that got on the tree when I used this strainer was what fell over the top edges of the strainer. So I then switched and went to a Tupperware type strainer, and it was this one right here. You can see this yellow strainer. It has larger strain holes in it, so you can see that when I used that, the flock was able to sift out the bottom at a lot higher rate. It still wasn't real heavy, but it was enough that it caused a nice frosty look on the trees. And spraying the bottle at the same time as it's coming out is very difficult to do if you can't achieve that. And there were a lot of times that my hand got tired and I just couldn't do shake the strainer and spray the water ball at the same time. So there were a lot of times when I would just make sure that the needles were wet, and then I would sift some on it and then come back over it later again and spray another layer of water just to make sure that it had actually penetrated and activated that glue. Now, I realized after using this larger strainer that I still wasn't getting the really thick snowflakes on the tips of the branches that I wanted. I wanted it to look very natural. So I tried doing some by hand, and what do you know? I really like the way this looks, so I combined sprinkling by hand, and then I would follow that up with the sifter and sift some out on there. And I always would go back and spray and mist to make sure that I was getting all of the flock saturated well. Once I got each section exactly the way I wanted it and it looked nice, I went back and I put one last coating over the top of the flock. The instructions on this bag actually say to come back and add a final misting of water to your flock to make it have that solid crust that holds it in place. You need to allow it to dry at least 2 to 3 hours in it was about 60 degrees when I did this, and I let it dry 2 to 3 hours before I moved any of the pieces, and I was careful when I moved them. I moved them inside and assembled them, and then I left the tree for a full 24 hours to cure. It will need a full 24 hours before you attempt to put your ornaments on it. So make sure that you allow it enough time to completely dry and cure. If you have a pre-lit tree, most of your lights should be strung towards the interior of the branch, so focus most of the heavy flocking to the tips of the needles and lightly go into the inside, and then you will not have any problem with your lights. Go back at the end and check the tips to see if you have any of your lights that are saturated with the flock, and just take your hand and rub it off and allow it to dry, and you'll be good to go. You'll have a beautiful tree. So I hope you liked this video, and if you did, again, make sure you subscribe, and you can check out more of my Christmas decorations over on my channel. I will leave a link below to my Southern Home Christmas tour, and you can check out my home there and see my tree and all of my other Christmas decorations. So be sure and take a look at that.